pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Estes.
You're welcome.
I'd like to invite everybody to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. Item number 4 is approval of the agenda.
I'll move.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. Thank you, Ms. Sharp. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Does any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Number 5 is approval of the consent agenda. Do any board members have any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move
Seeing
to
none, I'll
approve.
entertain. Mr. Young? Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Okay, item passes. We are going to move number 8, recognition, up to the top. So,
All right, we'd like to recognize the Central Magnet girls and boys cross-country teams. They captured the TWSA and AA state championship on November the 5th of 2021 with an average time of 19.51 for the girls and 17.01 for the boys. Coach Alan Nichols is here, and he would like to say a few words about his team.
All right, thank you all so very much for giving us this opportunity. It's an honor to be here before you all and to celebrate such a fun time. This year, our motto with Central Magnet Cross Country was family, and we felt like with COVID last year, things were quite challenging, very difficult for us, so we wanted to get that family atmosphere back. So we strove all season for that type of family atmosphere. So we were glad to do that while we represented Central Magnet and Rutherford County both. These students over here they exhibit a great deal of hard work, perseverance through injuries, all kinds of challenging days through hot weather and mud and rain and all kinds of weather challenges. But through all of that, we asked them to control what they could control and stay positive through all of those challenges. We are one team, even though we captured 2 championships. We have one group, one family that operates together. So our JV runners are also a part of our varsity goals. Our program includes the best of the best. And many of our JV runners who are not with us this evening, they would be varsity on most school teams throughout the state. And for those of you who do not know, cross-country rules are kind of similar to golf. The lowest scores are the best. So you strive for the low score. The top 5 runners score your team, and then 6th and 7th are your tiebreakers. So at this time, if our girls, if you all would stand for us, the ones who are here, we have quite a few. We have quite a few ladies that couldn't be with us this evening for swim and other academic competitions and things like that. So we do want to acknowledge they did break a school record with a time of 1951. This is our 2nd team championship for the girls. The other championship came in 2016. Samantha Willette is holding our trophy there. She is our senior captain, and Michaela Morrell is our junior captain. She's just next to Samantha. Those 2 were joined as all-state members by Emma Kate Hamby. And our girls had a peculiar fact that occurred this year, and that was not only were we team champions, but we had the individual champion in Samantha Willette and the state runner-up in Emma Kate Hamby as well. So it was an exciting race for the girls, and it was close the whole way, and we won by 3 points on the girls' side. So Our underclassmen girls are highly touted, and we have high hopes for them as well. Thank you, ladies. Yep. If our boys would stand. These are 5 of our boys. Again, just like with the girls, swim meet tonight, so they couldn't all be here. But these guys ran an average time of 17:01. This was also the second championship for our boys cross-country team. The first one came in 2013. Blake Yinger, who could not be with us this evening, is our senior captain, and Tony Peck is our junior captain. All state members were Blake Yinger and Logan Kelly. This was actually the most exciting race that I have ever coached in over a decade. We were down by over 60 points midway through this race. And I've never coached a race where we came from that far behind and we won by 2 points. Our underclassmen boys are highly touted, and they have high hopes for next year as well. So congratulations to our guys. My final thoughts before we leave you this evening, we want to again thank this board for recognizing us. It feels oftentimes like cross-country and track, and some of those life sports are not always acknowledged, but we really appreciate you all giving us this opportunity to represent both this board and Rutherford County. Our student athletes here exemplify how hard work and dedication pay off both on the race course and in the classroom. We're proud to bring titles home to Central Magnet and Rutherford County. And this could not be possible without 3 assistant coaches. Mr. Jay Wyndham is over here, Chris McGill is in the back, and then Amy Willette is kind of in the middle over here. So our assistant coaches are second to none. And then the last thing that I have, unless Dr. Ash wants to say something as well, but a point of personal privilege to thank our administration at Central Magnet School, and again, Mr. Spurlock here at the board, our athletic director, Mr. Kirksey at school, and then personally my family for supporting me through all of this. So these are amazing kids, and has been an honor and a privilege to work with them over the course of the last year or so. So thank you again. We're most appreciative.
Thank you.
Mr. Nichols, Ms. Sharp just looked at me and said, any parent that's not here cannot see these children because they're not on video, right? You don't know. Could they just come up here and stand real quickly, and then Dr. Ash can get a picture maybe if y'all will come up here, and that way Dr. Ash can get a picture, and any parent that's not here will be able to see them do that, okay? They got to see those big old trophies, yeah. And then we'll have a 20 by 40 mural done at Central. There you go. Thank you, Dr. Ash. Thank you. Yes, you may sit down.
Thank you and
Or
congratulations.
I think Mr. Nichols is ready to direct you out. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. I'd love to see the student. Yeah, number 6 is visitors, and we have a few this evening. First visitor will be Mr. Chase Williams.
Well, I hope that everybody had a nice Christmas and a Happy New Year, and wanted to wish an early happy birthday to my school board member, Vice Chairman Bratton. See, I'm not always as mean as I look.
Just don't tell my age.
Oh, I wouldn't dare presume it. The reason why I'm back again is I noticed that last week you kicked 1.400 and 404 back to Policy Committee. That's probably a very good idea. Fact of the matter is you really don't need these rules. The chairwoman under Robert's Rules of Order, which I'm very familiar with, already has the authority needed to keep decorum and to make sure that meetings run smoothly. She already has the power of the gavel to gavel down any speaker, table any debate, even ask anyone to leave if they find that their signage or their shirts are unacceptable. I agree that we need to keep decorum in these meetings. It's the way that a representative republic works, through robust debate to and across the board. That's why I've asked several times, kill these rules. They don't need to be. They just cause enmity in the community. And right now, in a time in our community when everybody is pitted against each other, whether how you think COVID should be handled, whether you're a Republican, whether you're a Democrat, whether you were a Trump person or a Biden person, it doesn't matter. We're so divided as a community. Education is supposed to be the one place where we all come together. I mean, I read, empowering today's students to grasp tomorrow's opportunities. Those words do mean something. We can't do that when we're constantly at each other's throats, when we're constantly arguing and bickering. So I ask that you take those rules away and just let things go as they should go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, next visitor, rather, is Mr. Chris Littleton.
Board members, good to see everybody. Three quick things, I guess. First, a little disappointed that the discussion meetings are no longer taking place. Not that in that particular format is that an issue, because I didn't find them that productive, to be honest, in the first place. So I would love them replaced with something else, and it could be in a public venue, but something that you've heard me advocate for multiple times, that is actually an engagement and sort of a collaborative discussion with the community. I understand that there are policy meetings, and that's obviously good, and the public can attend those, but it doesn't foster any kind of two-way communication. So definitely looking for that as a replacement to those discussion meetings, which I didn't believe were that productive in the first place. So that's just a comment there. With regards to the positions that are put aside for charter schools, so there's 3 more that we're aware of, at least, and I know the board's aware of, that are potentially coming into the community. I know myself, and we've even surveyed our parents internally through Rutherford Students First, wildly supportive of the idea of school choice and charters coming into the community. One of the many, many reasons is that schools are overcrowded. I know I have kids in portables right now. I have every single year. So schools that are funding their own construction of buildings is a good thing. So I hope that multiple do come in. And so I hope that the board is welcoming of those opportunities, that it becomes something that when these applications come up and become formal, we know that there's multiple coming, that you know that there are lots of parents that do support this. And if you follow the stats on this, Florida most recently did its own study, which is absolutely fascinating. They saw numbers increasing for even students in the traditional public schools. So in the district schools, they saw numbers increasing in their test scores when school choice started increasing. So they've got something like a 20-year trend on this at this point, because everybody gets to compete with one another at that point. The schools actually get more competitive. Math in particular saw some of the biggest gains. That's a net gain, because a student is a student is a student if they're in Rutherford County, and so it's the same tax dollars that are going to get spent there at a respective charter school or within the district. So we're advocates for that, and some of them aren't going to work, and we know that too. And I do this not from any particular position. Right now, multiple schools are going to be K through 8. Most of my kids are past that point, so this is not going to benefit me in any particular way. I just want to see improvement across the board in both Rutherford County schools and opportunity for all these kids. So I'm certainly, on a personal level, a huge advocate of school choice and charter schools, but I hope that the board is welcoming to those applications as they come in. I know the last time that I was at least in attendance at one of the presentations that one of the schools gave, only saw a couple of the board members there, but it was an open invite to the community. I'd encourage you guys all to go to those things. Even one of the schools, you can tour their current campus in Nashville. If you haven't been, I'd advise you to go, see what their model looks like, and the same thing goes for the ones that follow. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Next guest is Miss Leah Maitland.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see you this evening. Hi, I'm back. I would love to be home cooking dinner for my kids, but here I am. I'm sure you guys would love to be home too. I do want to say one thing about charters. In our group, we have many parents who are against charter schools. We would like to see money funneled into the public school system to benefit all students. When you have a son like my younger son who has multiple developmental and learning disabilities, charter schools aren't always an option. I would like to see funds go to his public school, and so that all kids can benefit from that money. And we have many, many parents in Safe RCS who feel the same way. So, but of course, I'm here to talk about masks. Shocking, I know. This week, members of Safe RCS have been reaching out to ask that you reinstate temporary masking through the Omicron surge. Today, we received the district's interpretation of Judge Crenshaw's injunction against the law. We have been told that this district is choosing to interpret the injunction as only applying to a few counties. This interpretation directly flies in the face of the interpretation of the legislators themselves. House Speaker Cameron Sexton said after the injunction came down from Judge Crenshaw that the injunction, and I quote, allows every school district to set quarantine guidelines. This means hundreds of different guidelines made by local school boards. So the people who wrote the law believe that Judge Crenshaw's injunction stands for all districts, all right? So it seems to us right now that all districts have a choice, right? They have a choice. They can choose to hide behind the appeal and allow teachers to get sick, schools to close, our healthcare system to be overloaded, the most vulnerable of our students to be at risk, or they can find the moral fortitude to do the hard thing, to do the right thing, to do the thing that really none of us want to do. I would love not to wear this mask, let me tell you. I mean, I'm telling my skincare regimen is awful now, but it's time to see us through this surge, to protect the least of these, to make sure that we have teachers in classrooms, bus drivers on buses, butts in seats, parents at work. So I ask you to reevaluate your interpretation. I ask you to listen to Cameron Sexton when he says that you have the power to make the decision for our students. You really do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next item is number 7, introduction.
All right, introduction. The new communication specialist took the place of Keith Cartwright, Mr. Grayson Maxwell. And his protege there.
Board, all of you knew Mr. Cartwright when he worked with us as the communication specialist. Mr. Maxwell has taken over. No relation to Claire Maxwell, is my understanding. He's from Georgia. But he lives in Riverdale now and joined us last week and has been doing a phenomenal job and is picking up all the skills and various platforms that we use very quickly. So I'll just let him say something short. Go from there.
Yep. Yeah, I'll just keep it really quick. Really excited to join RCS. You know, I've worked the last 5 years as a teacher, so I think transitioning now to tell the stories of students and kind of celebrate all the successes and achievements that they've done is a really great opportunity. So really excited to be here. Thank you guys, everyone, so much.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right, next is our new safety director, and I'm going to mess this name up. Patty Oser? Close enough? Okay, if you'd come up and kind of give us a little bit of overview of your experience and your vision.
Well, first of all, I have to say that I'm very happy to be here, back in the schools again. I was an SRO for 13 years, and that was the best job in the world. So I assume that this job is going to be the best job in the world. I'm just really happy to be here. Plan on making some big changes.
Well, welcome. Happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Moving on to number 9.
All right, number 9 is signing bonuses that we do annually, incentives for hard-to-staff subject areas. The signing bonus is an incentive for the hard-to-staff subject areas submitted to the state each year and presented for the board approval. Motion to approve this signing bonus incentives for the hard-staff areas for the 2022-2023 school year as presented. Dr. Anthony, on the latest year that we just got through, can you kind of give us some data on retention?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So for the 2020-21 school year, when it came to our employees that were hired for the school year and included their signing bonuses. Out of math, we were able to retain 37 out of 39 at a 95% retention rate. Spanish, 14 out of 15 at a 93%. ESL, 11 out of 14 at a 79% rate. And with the new student teaching signing bonus, 56 out of 63 for an 89% retention. So our committee has been meeting to review. We're about to have our 4th meeting tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to advertise this for our upcoming job fair. So we've added a few items of hard-to-fill areas such as ELA, social workers, school psychologists, and speech-language pathologists, just for the purpose of there becoming very few in their specialized techniques. For instance, in December, we had MTSU to graduate only 2 math majors and 1 English major. So as you see, the numbers are becoming so scarce in these hard-to-fill areas, and we want to be competitive with other districts that are doing very similar signing bonuses.
While we're on that subject, I did create a committee to look at our salary structure. Quite frankly, there's some areas in which we are stagnant in terms of experience, and we looked and compared that. This is something we'll bring forward to you guys during the budget process.
Thank you. Thank you for the information, Dr. Anthony. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr.
Our number 10, affiliation agreement with Cumberland University. It's found on tab 3. The Jeanette C. Rudy School Nursing and Health Professionals at Cumberland University has requested an affiliation with Rutherford County Schools. They would like their level 4 students to shadow a school nurse as part of their pediatrics community health clinical rotations. We currently have this agreement with Motlow, MTSU, and Lipscomb. By agreeing with Cumberland University, this gives our students a lot more chances. Motion to approve the Jeanette C. Rudy School Nursing and Health Professional at Cumberland University as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
Thank you, Ms. Breton. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr.
All right, number 11 is the Atlas Program Memorandum of Agreement found on tab 4. We received some more grant money. A very good job from Ms. Johnson. STARS, which is Students Taking the Right Stand, will provide master-level specialists to work with our elementary Atlas students, providing trauma-informed care, mental health services, social and emotional support for homeless students throughout the district. Endure Athletics will provide additional after-school tutoring, meals, mentorship, and school programming, including transportation at no cost to students living in motels and shelters. POSSIP will add a new communication tool for homeless students and their parents that will communicate to families in over 100 languages. The app will allow schools and parents to easily share information and feedback. The district will be able to analyze feedback from parents to adjust the Atlas program as needed and meet the needs of our homeless students and families. Motion to approve this memorandum of agreement between STARS, Endure Athletics, and POSSIP, and the Atlas program as presented. Is Ms. Johnson here? Ms. Johnson, would you come up and give us a little overview of that?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jessica Johnson. So STARS and Indoor Athletics, we have had a great relationship with these programs for several years, but POSSIP is brand new. So POSSIP is just like gossip with a P. So here's the great thing about POSSIP. It is a communication app. So we're going to be able to communicate with our parents and send them a message every other week. We will send them a message, and they're going to be able to communicate back with us. We can send them questions, 4 questions every other week about their needs. Do you need food? Do you need supplies? Do you need transportation to school? They can answer these questions, whatever they may be, within 1 minute. The company that organizes this program will interpret this data for us and send it right back. I'm not going to be looking at the computer screen and analyzing all this. They're going to do it for us, and then we'll be able to maintain our program and work it around the needs. We will know what our students and families need. We're not going to be guessing, and we're not going to be playing phone tag with our parents that happens so often. They're going to be able to tell us what numbers are working, what are no longer in service, so we can fix that problem also. Our county is not currently using this, of course, but other districts in our state is, and it's working out very successfully. I'm very excited about this opportunity.
Wonderful. I do have a question
Yes.
for you. Do we know a number of students, current students, that are in the Atlas program?
Yes, ma'am. We are serving and identified over 700 students as of today. Yes, ma'am.
What's it look like compared to last year?
We are over 200 more than this time last year, and there are students that are being enrolled every day. Yes, sir.
Not to overwhelm you, but when I saw this, you're focused mostly on elementary students. I worked in what they call the old CDC, with structured setting.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm telling you right now, there were a lot of our students that didn't have significant health issues, but they could have used this too.
Yes, ma'am. And the only reason that we're talking about elementary students right now is because we are already implementing, not in the Atlas program, but Rutherford County Schools, we are already putting STARS counselors, additional counselors in the middle schools and high schools.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
So, yes, ma'am. So that's the reason the Atlas program is focusing on the elementary schools.
I used to have many a sleep
Yes,
night
ma'am.
concerned about
Yes,
my
ma'am.
students. Okay.
I understand. You're welcome. Any other questions?
I do have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
If there are homeless and socioeconomic issues there, how many of our families have access to cell phones, or do you know how many will be able to reach through this?
That is my next project, working with a program right now to make sure all of our students are connected with a device, with internet and a device right now. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr.
Our number 12 is title funds request for David Urey Elementary, found on tab 5. David Urey Elementary request to purchase a Phonics Deluxe package from the 95% group. The Phonological Awareness Deluxe package includes basic and advanced phonics lesson library with decodable passages and basic and advanced phonics chip kits for students identified as Tier 2 and Tier 3 in the building. The lessons can be integrated into small group lessons and meet students where they are on the phonetic continuum during the built-in intervention time that all schools have in their schedule. Now, one of the things that we always ask, even when we're using federal money, is what are the metrics that we currently have that determines that this is effective? And I'm going to toss that over to Dr. Sullivan because he gave me that answer when I asked.
We have multiple of our Title I schools who use 95% group. Smyrna Elementary is one that just comes to mind. They use this primarily for Tier 2 and Tier 3 students who may be just a little bit behind, who are trying to get caught up. And this allows us to be able to move these students back into just strictly Tier 1 instruction. Of course, with COVID, that's taken a little bit of a hit, but this is a program that has been around and has been effective for us in moving students.
Getting them moved through so that they can come out of those classes. That's good. Motion to approve the $11,055 of David Urey's Elementary Title I funds for the purchase of Phonics Deluxe package from the 95% group to address students identified in the building needing additional phonological awareness support as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
Okay.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Estes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Spillane.
All right, number 13 is transportation, found on tab 6. The Transportation Department will providing bus services to support after-school tutoring program completely funded by Tennessee All Core funds. Tennessee All Core funds will provide contractors $200 a route for the duration of the 26 scheduled sessions. If this passes tonight, we will take it up tomorrow. One of the things I'll say, and we can't say a whole lot because it's embargo, because we participated in this All Core, we're going to be recognized, and there's going to be some substantial amount of additional funding that will come our way to help continue to fund this program. So motion to approve, recommend motion to approve the Rutherford County Schools 10 All Core funded bus extended sessions agreement as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item.
All right, number 2, transportation has been made aware of some of our service school buses being sold that still have Rutherford County Schools on the side. Transportation would like to add an addendum requiring contractors to remove Rutherford County Schools on any bus sold to individual or entity outside of Rutherford County Schools. Motion to approve the attached contract addendum requiring contractors to remove Rutherford County Schools on any bus sold to an individual or entity outside of the Rutherford County school system as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes.
All right, number 14, curriculum instruction, found on tab 7. This has to do with an adjustment to the 2021-22 academic calendar. State guidelines require all certified personnel to earn 30 in-service hours per school year. Rutherford County Schools builds in 24 of these into 4 in-service days throughout the school year. The remaining 6 hours are to be earned at the teacher's discretion throughout the school year. Now, we all know that on January 3rd, we had a cancellation of our in-service. What we're requesting here now is to do an amendment to the March 10th calendar. It's already scheduled for a 3-hour day, and to use that day as the replacement for the day we lost for professional development on March the 3rd. Questions on this, how it impacts students? It does not, because we would be using an inclement weather day on that day. So motion to approve the modification of the 2021-22 academic calendar to replace March 10th of 2022 early release day with an in-service day as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? I just want to say thank you for working on this.
I'll pass it over to the instruction. They did a great job. One of the things we try to do is keep all of our teachers on track to get that PD, and it's presented itself, and we're taking advantage of it.
Quick response, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I wanted to say that this is a great idea.
Thank you.
We're not adding that on to teachers. I'm very pleased that we have done this.
Agreed. Any questions? Oh,
I'm sorry, I jumped in there.
you're fine. Any other questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item.
All right, number 2 is the 2020, this is highly anticipated, the 2022 high school graduation dates, times, and location. As you can see through your packet there, the times, the dates, and the location. Motion to approve the high school graduation dates and times and locations for the class of 2022 as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? I think the packet is the electronic packet, correct, that you provided?
Yeah, they're not in here.
We not have that in there?
It's in the agenda.
agenda.
Electronic. It's not on our desks.
Okay.
Yep. Questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Breton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes.
We'll be putting that out immediately tomorrow morning to all of our principals and out to our parents,
Thank
our
you.
seniors.
Number 3.
All right, number 3 is a charter school school choice coordinator position. Curriculum and Instruction is requesting to hire a charter school school choice coordinator to oversee the entirety of the school choice programs for Rutherford County Schools. This position would begin tentatively if we can, as we proved and then we post it and we interview. This position would tentatively begin on February 1st, and it would be recognized in the 22-23 application cycle. Rutherford County Schools has received 3 different letters of intent from individuals representing charter school and plan to apply during the cycle. This position will be funded through the use of ESSER 3.0 funds. Motion to approve the charter/school choice coordinator position as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? I just want to say that I appreciate this coming forward. I know that Mr. Spurlock and maybe Dr. Sullivan can speak to this, but we just went through this process for the first time as a system, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So
To this extent.
to this extent, yes. So I think we learned a lot, and I'm excited about what the future holds as we grow in this situation, and I think this is a perfect step in the right direction. So thank you for this. I will entertain a motion if no member has any comments or concerns.
Okay. Let me answer. All right. The first thing they have to do is look at the letter of intents, and the applications will be filed in February. So that we've got 3 applications they'll have to go through. They'll have to go through that application, and also with the assistance with Dr. Sullivan, myself, is create another committee. We will be looking at another creation of committee. We're going to take input, and one of the things I'd like to see the dynamics of this committee to look like is a committee that is representative of different people who have different opinions. We want people who believe in school choice. We believe in school choice. We want people from our community, obviously, and we want that to become something that I think it was mentioned previously, that can help us address some of our needs in working forward. This also is not just a charter. This is choice. We have choice. We have our McFadden School of Excellence. We have our Cambridge program. We have our International Baccalaureate program. We have a middle years program at Oakland Middle. We have a BCA program at Blackman High. We're going to have a program at Riverdale High School. We have a program at a campus school. We have a middle college at Laverne High School. We're looking at ways this individual, whomever it may be, that can encompass all of those things. In addition to that, we also have a robust dual enrollment in industry certification programs. So they're going to be busy. Oh, no, but they're going to be very busy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's another example of one. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the explanation. Yeah, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes.
All right, number 15, financial matters, found on tab 8. I'm sorry.
Number 4.
Or did I skip one? No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Number 4, ESL department. Don't want to skip that. Curriculum Instruction is requesting to move the previously approved facilitator position of ESL specialist position to work specifically with secondary students. The change in position is needed due to the increased number of ELs at the secondary level and to support secondary instruction with English language learners. This position will be funded by ESSER 3.0. Motion to approve this change of the ESL facilitator to ESL specialist position as presented. Dr. Sullivan, can you tell me how many total do we have currently?
Of total ESL students, over 4,000.
And that's an increase?
I think I'd have to go back and look at the exact numbers.
I think it's about a 2 or 3% increase.
Yeah,
maybe
easily.
more.
And we are continuing to grow largely in the middle. We're growing everywhere with ESL students. The Stewart's Creek area is seeing a large area of growth as well, which we continue to see on the north end. Where we lack a lot of support is in our high schools, and that's kind of what this position looks at, is supporting our secondary students. With ESL students, you have something called LTELs, long-term English language learners, who have been in ESL for a very long time, and that's an area we have to get better at as a county.
Thank you.
We usually fluctuate either 3 or 4 in the state of Tennessee as far as a district with the percentage of ELs. So it's continued to grow.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes.
All right, now financial matters, tab 8. Authorization for skill level step increase for Rutherford County's hourly nutrition employees from Fund 143 budget amendment. Currently, there are over 50 open hourly positions in the school nutrition department with minimal applicants. Rutherford County Schools is not unique with staffing shortages in these type of positions, as food service employers throughout Rutherford County are struggling to maintain adequate staffing. With the USDA continuing to provide breakfast and lunch free to all students, the meal preparation of our students has increased dramatically to an average of over 40,000 meals served daily out of Rutherford County school cafeterias. Currently, the school nutrition staffing shortage is placing a great burden not only on the remaining nutrition staff at our schools, but also on our principals, assistant principals, instructional staff that have filled in to help serve our students at mealtime as well. In an attempt to both attract and retain nutrition staff, it is requested that all hourly Rutherford County food service employees be increased 1 skill level on the hourly salary schedule for classified employees, with the pay increase to be effective on the pay period ending on January the 29th, with the paycheck date of February the 4th. Motion to approve this skill level step increase for Rutherford County Schools hourly nutrition employees and related budget amendment for Fund 143 in the amount of $307,241 from additional current year school nutrition fund revenue as presented.
Thank you.
I had a
Questions? Yes.
Can I ask, I've had people come up to me and ask, I have no idea how much our cafeteria employees, if you were a first-year employee up to, what is the range? I mean, is it
Great question.
$14? I don't know.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
It's a great question, ma'am. Right now, we currently, for our food service staff assistants, the folks that are actually on the front line serving food and cooking food for our students, they have a start with no experience of $13.27 an hour. That will go up with this vote. If the school board votes to affirm this, they'll have a $1.05 increase. They'll go up to $14.32 an hour, and that will be the starting pay with no experience. Of course, there's steps with additional experience for that, and based on the years that they've had relevant food service experience. This would be a good bump. Obviously, I'm sure you see for-profits that pay more than that. One thing that we can offer, it's difficult to trade blows with for-profit, but what we can offer besides a good starting pay and a good, if you continue with step increases, is quality of life. You're not going to work weekends. You're not going to work holidays. You're not going to work nights. You'll be there with our kids. And of course, once again, the reward of you're taking care of our children, serving our children.
Are you optimistic that this will help?
Cautiously.
That sounds like a great term right there, cautiously optimistic. Because like that motion said, everybody in food service in Rutherford County, this area, are struggling to maintain staff.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I think this is a great idea. I just want to say while we're on this, that we have this problem in many, many areas, and we're going to have to look at stepping up a lot of things. Don't you think, Mr. Spurlock?
Yeah, we're working on something that we will let you know here as we get into the budget process in terms of something that will impact this year, but we'd like to hold off before we, divulge that, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right.
I just want to make sure that
we're in tune.
we're going to get everybody in this.
We had that conversation. Doug and I had that conversation. So we're taking care of that.
We're going to get everybody. That sounds
We're
good.
going to do what we can do. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? No, seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Excuse me. Ms. Sharp's going to abstain. Next item.
All right, creation of a position for school choice charter and special projects accountant. The Finance Department is requesting to hire a school choice charter and special projects accountant to oversee the financial aspects of charter school applications and charter schools that operate in Rutherford County. The position would begin tentatively by February the 1st for the beginning of the state-recognized 2022-23 application cycle. Rutherford County Schools has received 3 different letters of intent from individuals representing the charter and the plan to applying during this cycle. This position will coordinate with the school choice charter coordinator in Rutherford County Instruction Department, and it will be funded through ESSER 3.0. The salary range for this position for this accountant would be $65,000 to $75,000, and they would also, while they're not doing that, would be assisting in our finance department in other areas. So, motion to approve the creation of the school choice charter and special projects accountant and related job description as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
Second.
Mr. Holden, I think you got that first. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item.
All right, facilities found on tab 9, request from Principal Tamara Blair for Redstone Bank. Principal Tamara Blair has requested to partner with Redstone Bank and provide CTE program like those already in place at Blackman High School. Engineering Construction has met with Redstone and Mrs. Blair to review the location and proposed renovation request in support of this project. All work and materials will be provided by Redstone Bank at no cost to the board. Motion to approve the renovation for Redstone Bank at Riverdale High School at no cost to the board as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or concerns from members of the board?
To approve.
Thank you, Mr. Holden.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. I do have one question. This will look like the one at Blackman, so we'll see.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Speaker.
All right, at this time, Mr. Lee is going to go through the 5-year building program. These are 3 projects at 22-23, and option 2 is 4 projects, and option 3 is 5 projects. So he'll be discussing these, and we'll take a vote after questions have been asked.
Okay, tonight, based on our last meeting, we presented you one with just to look at, showed you a couple of projects, and we were asked to come back tonight with a couple of different options. In these options, you see projects that are spaced out over 5 years. In the first one, it's the one that you saw last time that had 3 projects for recommendation for this year. And I would like to say for those that members that are not used to looking at this spreadsheet, the first column, it says design. That's when we typically need to start design for the projects to be able to get them out for bid in the spring. The construction, FF&E, that's when we need to have approval to move forward with the bid. And then the third number is when the project would typically be complete. So like the first one you see there, Riverdale High Addition, we need to start design in February, release construction in FF&E in April, and we're targeting a completion date of December of 23. So that's about an 18-month project. So that's kind of tell you what those first three columns are. So basically, this is what we looked at and what we felt like we could get by with, and that we felt fairly comfortable could go through with the county commission. In option number 2, and basically what you're going to see here is we've moved up the Laverne High Addition up to the first year. So instead of having 3 projects, you would have 4. What you see subsequently on the next line item, it stayed basically the same, but then they go down. So the money moves around, and even though you approve a 5-year building program, you effectively approve that first year for funding. The subsequent projects on year 2, 3, and 4, we would reanalyze this time next year, and some of those projects may move around. They'll probably still be there, but they may change in priority, and that's something we do every year. So don't necessarily get hung up on what's in year 5, even though you see that project. It's what we're projecting out. But as we've discussed in some of our other things, even though we know where all the new subdivisions are today, how fast they build out, nobody can predict. So we may predict a certain area building out at a certain rate, but it doesn't build that fast, and another area does. So we may move those projects in year 2, year 3, year 4, up and down. So the main thing we're looking at, even though we're looking at the overall, is what is the cost impact for what we're proposing this year. So the first order with 3 projects is $63,400,000. In option number 2, we're at $90,445,000. And then in the next option, we move up Oakland High School, which basically puts an annex addition on Riverdale, Smyrna, Laverne, and Oakland, with an addition to Stewart's Creek Elementary. That request is $119,500,000. So those are the 3 that we looked at, and we're basically just moving things forward that had been discussed. We're open to discussion. You don't necessarily have to vote on one of these tonight. If you all have discussion that you'd like to move one up or move one down, we'll be glad to look at it for you, and we'll be glad to come back in 2 weeks with another option. We do think that first option, based on some initial feedback that Mr. Beaudry's gotten from the county commission, is something that has the potential to possibly go through. No guarantee, but you know, that's the more aggressive we get, the more difficult it's going to be to get it through the county commission. And what that does to us from the building program standpoint, it delays us.
I think it has a lot to do with debt service. Doug, you want to talk just briefly about debt service?
Obviously, every time the county commission approves a bond issue to fund, with school construction, of course, once the funds come drawn down, we do the construction, we open the school, and teaching starts in that school system, or in that school. That bond, of course, is typically a 25-year bond, fixed rate bond, so that continues to be paid, and it has to be serviced with, recurring revenue in the county's debt service fund. So obviously, there's bonds coming on, there's bonds coming off all the time, not just for school, for education purposes, but for other things, law enforcement, public safety. That debt service for that entire fund, of course, is going to be funded from different types of revenue, and debt capacity in that fund could go up and it could go down depending on what's dropping off of that amortization schedule for those debt payments or what's picking up. So my point with this, obviously, from a, as we know, just like for a household budget, from the commission standpoint, it's what type of debt capacity do I have right now to fund these projects with, available capacity. And that's one thing that the county uses Stevens Group for their bond, their financial advisor for going to the bond market. And they routinely prepare a debt analysis for the county to say what kind of debt capacity they have, what's open and available. So we can get a copy of the most recent debt capacity and analysis if that's what the board would like to see, not only for what's available, but also what the rest of the capital needs of the county is, for law enforcement, whatever. If you'd want to see that as a board, I believe we could get a copy of that.
Okay.
Something that the county budget committee looks at quite a bit.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
My concern was that I really would like to see us do all 4 of our high schools. And I noticed on the second one, we don't have Oakland. And I have the same, not only I'm happy about the additions at our 4 older high schools, I feel like Riverdale and Oakland have security issues as well. And this new design kind of fixes that. They are not closed, so if you've got inclement weather and the bell rings, right as it stands right now, those kids are getting wet. And if we have tornadoes or it's really, really cold there, it's not the same as it would be like at Rockville, Stewart's Creek. And so I would like to see Stewart's Creek Elementary Edition put lowered and then and add Oakland.
Here's where we were with that, Ms. Maxwell. We're probably about 115% over capacity at Stewart's Creek Elementary. We cannot put any more portables there. We're kind of landlocked there. And that's the 30% of the growth of Rutherford County has occurred in the northwest end of the county. Right now, Oakland is not at capacity. So I would hate, I don't know what we would do with them, to be quite frank. Frankly, we've had this discussion. Even if the commission approves Stewart's Creek Elementary Edition this year, we're talking probably wouldn't be available until what? Maybe next year sometime?
Yes, sir. I think it would be October, so we're going to go into that school year with the same portables and an increased enrollment, and be even in, for some months until the classrooms are finished. We have growth everywhere. I think the thing about it is, where is the most substantial growth? When we look at Oakland, they're probably sitting in Riverdale, they're probably sitting somewhere at 93% capacity. When you're talking about Stewart's Creek Elementary, you're talking well over 100. You're getting into the red zone and with no place to put additional portables.
I have one other question. Is there any reason why we can't go ahead and, I know Ms. Blair had asked for some renovations, floor and old science room, C Hall, awful. I don't think any of that's been done at all.
There was no money appropriated for this year for that work. The budget was set last year. I met with Ms. Blair earlier this year, and as we go into the budget process for next year, you're going to see those items on the list.
Is this something that we can do at one time is what I was trying to see.
We're going to try, typically when we do an annex or an addition to a school, we try and spend some money inside the building. If you've toured Smyrna Middle when we opened it, we went back into the old school. We painted the corridor walls. We changed out the VCT floors. We epoxied the bathrooms, those kind of things. So the answer to your question is, some of that we can do through the building program, but some of it we cannot. The areas that we cannot will be unfortunately somewhat a number of you. When we go through this process, we had, and Doug and I are getting this from the principal this month, January 31st, to send us. We do it rather quickly to organize and come back. We typically have somewhere between $4 million worth of requests from our principals of things that need to be done at their school. We, in our general purpose budget, last year we had right at $1 million for maintenance items. There's certain things that we have to pay through our general budget. Use painting for as an example. We cannot. It's a state thing that you can't do. It's not a capital improvement. It's more of a maintenance. Is the way. Through our 177, which you've seen numerous times. It's a 5-year head that I've shown you that's up over 100 million, somewhere in there, and we get $7 million a year. So we have a lot of need, and we have to prioritize, and unfortunately, we can't always go in and fix everything we want. And that's a long, drawn-out answer to say we're going to use the building program, the capital projects, and our general purpose to not only address Riverdale, but all of our schools as best we can. And unfortunately, Mr. Spurlock and Doug and I get to sit and look at each other and go, okay, this school has asked for $50,000. They're really in need, but this one is in a, we've got to decide which, I almost feel like Solomon sometime. I got to cut the baby in half. And it's not a fun place to be able to tell these principals no. But we tell them yes and try and make our money go as far as we can. So I know that's a long, drawn-out answer, but I realize all the needs at Riverdale, and we're going to try and address all of them that we can as expediently as we can, but it's probably a 2 to 3 year process.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I have several questions. Can you walk us through these additions and how many classrooms will it give us per addition per school?
Okay, if you go to what I left on your desk, it's probably a little bit easier to see, and we'll take them kind of quickly in order. The first one you see is Riverdale. There's a site plan there on how we address the kids going back and forth, and what you don't see is that there's a second floor on this that actually becomes the cover. So even though there's still that road that goes through there, it's a shortened area, and it's wide enough that it's a covering for inclement weather. So yes, they will still have to be outside for a short period, but they're not going to get wet anymore. It is the intent, and we're still able to have access back and forth. The rest, the renovated areas, going off memory, it's 30-something classrooms that we're adding. It's roughly 500 to 600 students that we could add to the campus, and that's kind of what we have talked amongst ourselves. That's kind of the max we want to be. We don't necessarily want to go there, but we feel like we can comfortably handle that capacity. Okay. We don't really want to go much more than that. So if you look at those two, and remember, these are preliminary. These are not set in stone. I've met with Mr. Marshall at Oakland and Miss Blair at Riverdale. We've had 4 fairly good conversations. They've seen this process. Unfortunately, Smyrna and Laverne has not. They got kind of added late in the game.
Okay.
But we're in that same ballpark. Oakland and Riverdale, their needs were science, math, regular classrooms, access, safety, security. The other thing you have to remember, 13 years ago when we renovated Oakland and Riverdale and added the science wing onto the annex, I still call it the 9th grade annex, but it's not 9th grade anymore. We added science classrooms over there. What they're presently doing, the reason they have so many students go back and forth, that's the majority of their science classrooms. So it's not ninth grade over there, it's 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Anybody taking science has got to go across the street. So that was one of the major additions. So what this does is it addresses that. We're adding them 7 science classrooms, and that number could go up or down 1 or 2 as we go finish out the process, but that's to get science back on the other side of the street, as I call it. And then that allows them to potentially, maybe that annex goes back to being almost 9th grade.
Are we planning on putting labs over in this addition?
Sir?
Are we putting labs in addition if we're
I'm
not
putting
doing that?
science labs in the new addition,
Okay,
yes,
so
sir.
you're putting it-
And I'm doing it on the main building side of the street.
What are you doing with the core?
The core, well, we're having to take out some in their cafeteria area. If we can add student space, the other problem they run into is you got to feed them. And if your cafeteria is the same size, you still can't feed any more children, so they end up starting earlier and going later to feed the children, so we've got to be able to expand that cafeteria space. So we're taking all of their guidance area that's in the front there at Riverdale in Oakland, and we're moving it over. We're taking 3 or 4 classrooms in the front. If you look at Riverdale A0101, which should be the second page, there's some brown areas. Those brown areas are renovated spaces. That's where we're moving things inside the building. We're getting more cafeteria space. There's another thing. Riverdale doesn't have a culinary arts program. Culinary arts is one of our bigger CTE programs, and all of our schools have it. So we're looking at, in that core area, getting them that food service program back. Similar to what the other schools did. Another thing that came forward from Mr. Marshall in our meeting with him is they don't have art classrooms. They've got small rooms, where our new high school's they've got a pottery class, they've got the art class, and they've got this common area in between. We're going to put that in at both schools. So there's been a lot of dialogue back and forth to try and address this. We've looked at our corridor, shifting the flow out of the main building into the annex, because one thing we can't do as we increase the student load, we cannot widen those existing hallways. That's another problem that we have. So what we've looked at is with them is getting more of their high demand core classes out into the annex, where we can make a wider hallway, give them more freedom, and take some of the lower demand classes and put them into the existing building. So there's a lot of things like that we're looking at that's going to improve the overall campus for both schools. Even though we may not say we're doing anything in there, it's allowed the administrators to look at it differently and load the building differently. So that has happened at Oakland and at Riverdale, and it's been kind of a staged process.
Y'all ever thought about, and this is kind of crazy, but no one uses the lockers. No one uses those lockers. I mean, probably 2% people put their... Have y'all talked about just taking the lockers out?
We can, but it doesn't add you a whole person width-wise. We can take them out, and that may be something
12
we discuss.
inches.
I was thinking it would give us a little...
12 inches combined on both.
Yeah, on both sides. And we can. I mean, that's something we've looked at, because that's one of the things Ms. Blair asked about, just trying to patch the floors.
I think the more we go with online textbooks and working with that, because the biggest thing, they don't use the lockers in high school, but you'll get a freshman that will carry them around in a backpack, and you get a lot of complaints about that.
So those are the kind of things we're looking at. None of this is complete, but we've gotten fairly deep at Oakland and Riverdale. So if you pass that, you see the second floor, classrooms there. Then the next drawing is Smyrna High. There again, it's 2-story, about the same number of classrooms. I've talked to Dr. Sutherland briefly about her needs. We can address the needs that she's discussed. It's not necessarily reflected in these drawings, but as we go forward, these are for interpretive things so that you can see that we can do it. Basically, what you would do at Smyrna's, it would be in the west parking lot, and then you would come out of what there is their first floor, and based on the topography of the site, you'd actually walk into the second floor with a bridge covered annex like that. So That's Smyrna. If you go to the next page, there again, we're showing science labs and classrooms, and these rooms are still in flux. The next one you see is a hand sketch of Stewart's Creek. This is another one of our schools that was shoehorned in and was not designed to expand at all. But getting creative, there's a drop-off lane there beside the school on that end of the building. We can move that out to Red Hawk Parkway and just make it a turning lane. We think we can pick up 16 classrooms. We've looked at the orange space in between. That's a space to increase our dining area. There again, we've got to think about feeding these children, or we're not going to be able to get them. Doesn't matter what we do, it's not going to help us. So there's 16 classrooms there. The next one you're going to look at is Laverne. There again, two-story, very similar to Smyrna. The first one is a site plan just to kind of give you an orientation of where it's going to go. And then the 2 floors for it. All of these schools are going to have some interior modification to make this work, mostly to our cafeteria areas, kitchen and cafeteria. The thing at Smyrna and Laverne we're going to have to look at, because at Riverdale and Oakland, 13 years ago when we did those, we moved those kitchens out and we enlarged those kitchens, and they actually have the capacity to do 2,500 students. With the serving lines that I've double-checked with Eric in food service, he says no problem. Smyrna and Laverne's not that way. We're going to have to move those kitchens out. I've done it once. It's a summertime miracle, as I call it, to tear out a kitchen and get it built back in time for students to come back. So we've got a lot of thought into all of this. And then the last one you're going to look at is Oakland. It's very, and I'm going to use the term very similar. We hear a lot of times Oakland and Riverdale are exactly alike. They're not exactly alike. They're close, but they're not exact. The buildings do not line up the same, so we've got some orientation differences. But as far as program, space, number of classrooms, things that they need, renovated areas, all of those kind of things that we looked at Riverdale, we've done the same thing at Oakland.
So can you give me approximate classroom capacity for Smyrna, Laverne, and Oakland? Is that the same as Riverdale?
They're all fairly close, somewhere but added, because when you renovate some, when I take those 4 or 5 classrooms away for the new guidance area, I've got to replace those classrooms. So if you count total classrooms, you're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 40-something-ish. But added, it's 30-something. But it works out to roughly 500 students per campus. 500 per campus?
Yes, ma'am. So it's some information. I think that, and if it's all right with the board, I think we should have this discussion and determine whether there's additional questions we have this evening, and maybe we'll move this item to the next board meeting for a vote. And I say that because some information I think that we need to be able to decide on these is how many portables do we have at each of those schools, and how many will be removed as a result of these additions. And I think that if we're going to ask for an aggressive building plan with 4 additions with your item number 3, that you provided, and by the way, thank you for all that you've done on this. I appreciate the short time that you've been able to produce all this, but I think that we have to have a very good argument and a clear picture of what we're going to be asking our county commission to support. So I'd like to know what the current occupancy is at each of these schools, what their portable numbers are, and how many portables will be removed from those campuses if we approve these additions.
I can say this, with these additions, all portables would be removed from whatever campus. So let's say you pick Smyrna and Riverdale, and I'm just picking those 2, and Stewart's Creek. I just moved 4 portables to Stewart's Creek. Every time I turn around and I call Dr. Sullivan and go, hey, I wrangled a portable. Where do you want me to take it? Take it to Stewart's Creek. So we've taken to the elementary school.
Okay.
We've taken them to the high school, but to the elementary, they're full. We can't safely put them there without taking their playground space or, taking something major away that an elementary would need. The answer to your question is, with 16 classrooms, all the portables go away.
Yeah.
At Riverdale, all the portables would leave. At Oakland, whatever portables are there, they would leave. I can tell you right now, the campus with the most portables is Smyrna.
Smyrna High?
Yes, they have the most portables for our high
They would
school.
lose them too, but they would lose all of them.
Yes, they would. They all go away.
Temporarily.
Well, you're correct, because I'm moving them back to places that we took them away from when I started, and now we're taking them back.
How close are we to capacity at Laverne Middle now that we have the annex?
Ma'am?
How close are we to capacity at Laverne Middle now that we have the annex?
We're in pretty good shape there now.
Very good shape.
Yeah, we're in very good shape there,
In fact, their enrollment kind of decreased.
which helped us. But yes, they're in good shape.
They're at 1127, and they can hold over 1,600 now.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Excellent.
Because that end is continuing to grow.
Yes.
Any other members have questions, comments, or concerns?
I'd like to make a comment. I did ask last time we met that you get aggressive on this, and I appreciate you coming back with a plan that is somewhat aggressive. I think that would be option 3, is probably the most aggressive plan I see here. And I've been on this board serving almost 10 years. Portables has been a nightmare for us. And it's been our goal to get rid of portables. And we have moved a lot of portables. We haven't eliminated any.
No, sir,
In 10 years I've been here. And it's time to do that. It's time to get portables out of Rutherford County schools. The parents don't like them. The school board members don't like them. It's time for us to do something. So I'm going to be supporting the most aggressive plan that will do that. And I think you've got an option here that's getting real close. But it's going to take some money. And us school board members, we don't approve these subdivisions. We don't bring the kids in here, but we do have to educate them. And we need to educate them in a good building, a safe building, a good environment. So that's what I'm going to be supporting, whatever is most aggressive.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Any other members? Okay, so with that information, yes, Mr. Lee?
So with that, and then we may be, I didn't mean to step in, but with that being the case, we'll put this back on the agenda for the next board meeting and get some feedback, and I'll come back with 1 or 2 more.
Yeah, I think any information that might be provided to us, both what I've already requested and what Mr. Bodery was able to recommend, whatever us as board members can review to make the best possible decision, I welcome that information.
Okay. Thank you.
So with that, and maybe this is a Mr. Reed question.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Could we have that debt service load number
that's-
or that report that they have that they look at?
Sir, I'll request it in
Yes.
the most recent copy.
I mean, just to have in front of you, just so, we can kind of use that as a measuring stick if we would review the money. So, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was referring to, but you called it by name, so I appreciate that. So, Mr. Reed, do we need to make a motion to roll this to the next meeting or take no action or?
Just take no action.
Okay. If members are okay with that, we'll just move this to the next calendar or next agenda, and we'll go on to the next item. Thank you, Mr. Lee, for the information.
All right, the next few items are just updates. I'm going to let Mr.
Construction project update, that was something that was asked last meeting too, kind of where we were on a few projects, so I thought I'd just briefly run down through it fairly quickly. Plainview Elementary construction update. Of course, we all know the school's in session and everything. We've still been working on the road to Hoover's Gap. The road to Hoover's Gap is complete. It was opened Monday. We have a small section right at Hoover's Gap that the paving plant's closed. It does have binder on it. They striped it so it's usable. We'll have to come back in the spring and put just a little bit of topping there. But other than that, everything there is finished. The contractor is anticipating being completely finished with the off elementary site, the rest of our site where a future building will go, completed in the next 4 to 6 weeks, weather permitting. Central Magnet, been a long process with that HVAC renovation. It is in the process of doing punch list. We finished the annex over the Christmas holiday and got it all turned on. We're anticipating the contractor being through early February. Rockville Middle Addition, site work, building construction's underway. It's been challenging. We've had to move some utilities, but they're in the process of finishing that up. 4 of the 5 addition building pads are complete. Foundations and masonry walls are started, and hopefully have all of them complete by the end of January. One thing we did do is something that we started when we built the high school. We weren't able to finish it. We ran a new gas line off of the Horton Highways utilities. And for those that have been out there between the middle school and the high school, there's been a tank farm forever. We were able to swap over the middle school over Christmas break to the natural gas. So now those tanks will be able to go away, and we won't have to deal with that anymore. So that was able to be completed. Smyrna Middle Annex, that project's been kind of sitting because the contractors had to acquire the materials because it is a renovation. A lot of the things that we would need on the back end, like door frames and those kind of things, are taking 8 to 12 weeks to get. So we had to wait for a lot of that equipment to get here, but they did start 2 weeks before Christmas. We anticipate having that work done in 2 phases and ready complete. We'll have half of it by the end of school and the other half by the time that school starts back. So that renovation will be complete. The school Dr. Ferguson has been great to work with. We've emptied out a lot of classroom, condensed, moved around so that we could get half the annex at one time. So we'll do that. Laverne Middle, of course, that's complete. There's been a lot of questions about the final paving there. Between the weather and the rain and the time of year, we've not been able to get that top coat on, and the plants have closed. So we're at the top of the plant list. If we get some warm weather, sometimes they open back up. They'll get us taken care of. It's usable. It's just not finished. Rockville Elementary, we've completed placement of the base slab. Masonry contractors on site, getting ready for second floor planks, plumbing, electricians, those kind of folks have already started. Bleacher replacement, we've really hit this hard since October. The contractors completed removal and installation of new bleachers at Laverne, Riverdale, and Oakland. They're in the process of finishing Smyrna, and they will be at Laverne next. A lot of these schools still had original bleachers from when they were open, and they're the heavy wood. We've been band-aiding them, and it was really nice to get all these changed out. Playground renovations, there again, we've been waiting on equipment. Stewartsboro has arrived, and if we can get a break in the weather, they'll get in there and get working on that. Buchanan sewer to get us off the failing system that is our own system that we have to manage that dumps into the river. We anticipate having that up and running by the 1st of April. So that project has been a long time in the process, and we're getting close to having it completed. Blackman High auditorium seating, chairs are ordered. Probably not going to arrive till the end of school, but we'll get it over summer break so that when they come back, they'll have a new auditorium. Buchanan Elementary parking lot. Of course, I just said the paving has been shut down for the winter, but soon as spring starts back. If you're familiar with Buchanan Elementary, it'll be new parking in the grassy area, left side next to the church facing the building. So we're going to do that as soon as spring breaks. We've got tons of small projects that we're not going to go into. These are kind of the major ones that people have been asking about, and that's where we are.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns from members of the board on that update? No? Okay. Next item.
All right, the insurance update.
Keep this brief. You have in front of you a large handout. What this is, and this was a rate comparison. Basically, it was prepared by Mercer, which is the rate setting consultants for the county health plans. And they were requested by the county insurance committee to look at a comparison, just an apples to apple comparison of the rates, and that would be what the employees would pay. And we're looking at active employees. We're not discussing retirees here. We're looking at active employees. If the county as a whole went to the state health plans for 2022, what would be the cost comparison? And there's quite a bit of data on these pages that Mercer placed, but if you would turn to the very last page, because I know it's getting late and the bottom line is what we're looking for. The county consultants with Mercer stated that if the county went from the county health plans as a whole and went to the state health plans, to their offerings, and all the employees went to a comparable plan, went to the, if you were with the high deductible plan, you would go to the state high deductible plan. If you were with you would go to a copay plan if that was the comparable with what you had now. If everybody just went to that, and we kept we went to the county and we kept the MedPoint clinics, that bottom line, there would be a savings to the county and the employees out of their premiums of $5,134,048, and that's with keeping the clinics. If we did not keep the clinics and we just had the employees go to all the clinics that were available, I believe it was 14 throughout the county that they could access with the state or the state health plans and pay a copay to go to them, the savings would increase to $7,386,340, and that's what Mercer, the rate-setting consultants for the county, that's what they arrived at with the savings for the current employees. Now, if you'll turn to this is the other handout you have, and this what I have for you here, because obviously cheaper is not always better. So what I have for you here is state statute requires every year that any LEA that chooses to take their employees, their teachers, employees off the state health plans, and you see the TCA right there, 827-303. A2, it says establishes the provisions by which a local education association can opt out of the state health plans and remain eligible for full BEP funding, because obviously we receive quite a bit of funding to help offset from the state to help offset cost of insurance for our employees. Now, the state says if you take your teachers off of the state health plan offerings and you go to a county or a third-party plan, which we've done in Rutherford County and several other counties have done, they say that is okay. You can still get your BP funding if the health plans that you provide those employees are either A, equal to or superior to the state health plan offerings, okay? Now, the state contracts with AON, which is a third-party actuary, and they actually look at our plans, our county plans that we offer our employees, and they look at what they would receive benefit-wise if they were under the state plans. And if you turn the page, this is actually this year's valuation from this actuary. And as you can see, there's a two-tier test you have with this TCA that says, are these plans that you're offering your employees, are these health plans equal or superior to? There's a two-tier test. And that second page, you see that first tier test is they take the state premier plan, health plan, that would be offered to our employees. If we're in the state plan, they said, okay, we will look at this plan. Do you have a plan in the county health plan offerings that are on par with this premier PPO, this good plan with the state? If you see right there, there is one county plan that is equal to, it's not 100%, but it's within the 5% variation of that actuary that meets that first tier test, and that is the county's deductible plan, which is closed. It's grandfathered. You cannot, a new employee cannot even get in there to that plan. But since that's offered to some employees, that meets that first tier test. Now, the county insurance committee voted to, and with Dr. Anthony and I and the REA representative abstain or voting no, we were outvoted that they recommended that deductible plan be terminated after 22. So after 22, after this year, the one plan that the county offered that is on par with that premier plan of the state is going to be gone. So we will fail this first step, this first tier test for equal or superior. Now you turn the page, you see the second tier test. If the LEA does not have a health care plan that is on par with the best plan, if we have a plan that is better than the worst, lowest paying and covering plan, we can meet that test and still have a separate county health plan outside the LEA. As you noticed, we will have the county HSA plan, and the copay plan is still better than the worst offering that the state health plans have. Now, the HSA plan that they have for the county here, it's superior because we add additional money towards that, but the state says we're looking at it like you would not offer anything towards your, the health savings account, which obviously we wouldn't reduce anything as far as that if we went. This to say that the state health plans would show we would have, not only it would be savings, but it also would be bringing better benefits to the employees. I want to say one other thing too before I take questions is we're looking at current employees and pre-65 employees without drug coverage. We have a group, 477 retirees that have drug coverage under the county plans. That has never been part of a discussion of taking those retirees off of the county retirement health plans. That has never been a part of a discussion here. We have said that from the beginning. We've said that numerous times through this entire committee study. That the state, if the county BOE was to go, or the county as a whole was to go to the state health plans, the state has said that numerous times, and it's in writing. The county can still maintain those retirees with Part D coverage under the current county plans. They do not have to change anything with that. I want to say, I can't say that enough, is that we are not looking at retirement benefits for our grandfathered employees or retirees. The county plan administrator has looked at and introduced, discussion of putting those retirees to a Medicare Advantage plan. That could be a good benefit for them. It could not. That's being studied by them. That is not being looked at by the study committee that was created by the BOE. Still hasn't. But the discussion is, once again...
Doug, one of the things that was mentioned in the meeting there at the commission on that was bringing spouses over. Right. What kind of fiscal impact would that have on that projected savings of $7 million?
Good question. Obviously, right now, under our county plans, if you have a spouse that has insurance that meets the Affordable Care Act through their employer, they're not eligible to be under our plans. And of course, that was a pretty big morale issue. That was before me, but I was informed how that was a pretty big morale issue when spouses were excluded from our plan offerings. Under the state plans, spouses would be allowed back on those plans and for a lower premium. But if you added spouse, of course, that would be an additional amount in the premium that the county would pay, that the BOE would budget for. Those savings would allow for those spouses to come back on. Additionally, the state plans open up, and we've had numerous employees notice, I would save significant money in my premium if we went to the state plans. The active employees, that would be money in my pocket, or we've already had employees notice this. We have some employees that are on that high deductible that they have health issues, and they probably would benefit from being on a better plan, more robust plan. The savings would allow them to move up to a better health plan, but once again, that would bring additional premium on the county side. That would cut into those savings that we're seeing. At the end of the day, though, we wind up with those smaller savings, but we have employees with better insurance or money in their pocket. I don't think we lost.
I agree. Dr. Anthony, this will be an HR question. Do you see that as being a recruitment tool in order to bring spouses over?
Absolutely. We've had several calls since we updated our initial survey, and the big issue is that would definitely be a win to be able to bring in the spouses for sure. So it also helps them to realize that we're trying to meet the needs of the families of our employees.
Thank you. Any questions from board members?
Thank you for explaining something that I really did not know a whole lot about, and I've been learning about. I just wish we could guarantee, and the board can't guarantee, that drug coverage for those retirees if they were to stay, because we don't know what the county's going to do. The county, if they go to, from what you just explained, they could put them on a Medicare Advantage plan. It may not be what they're used to, and so.
And that's the thing is, the Medicare Advantage plan, once again, the county plan administrators looking at, we have
exactly
not.
That's what I'm saying. We can't.
That is, but I agree with you.
There's no
That is
guarantee.
something, as far as the retirees, I can understand their concern about what the county is looking at, but that is not the BOE study committee. And if you notice, we're looking at, when you look at the bottom line, this is over $70 million a year the county pays for health. So this is a significant, issue that we have been looking at for a great part of a year. But the savings and the chance that our employees could have better coverage, I mean, it's worth the work, I believe, that we put into it.
What's the projected increase currently on what we're currently getting percentage for next fiscal year?
The percentage, that was the thing, is rate increase.
A rate increase, yeah.
They have not released what it would be. The early estimate from last year, and they reduced that. What sparked this, and Mr. Young remembers, is when their initial, for budget purposes, for this fiscal year we're in, was a 10% premium increase for this year, that 2022, and then a 17% the next year. And that's, of course, when the board decided we need to start looking at this. Obviously, it came down, but in this environment, health environment, I mean, there's going to be rate increases. So regardless of whatever plan you're on in carrier.
I think that the situation is any raise that the board has been working to get the employees is being eaten up by the increase of premium.
Absolutely. It's a wash. Absolutely.
And that's correct. I mean, we've discussed this, when we look at inflation, what inflation's done in 2021. And of course, and then you look at rate increases like that, you're correct. I mean, this would be an opportunity and once again, pay increase, yes, but if you can, on the back end, have less taken out of that employee's paycheck for good insurance, that's just the same as a good pay increase on the front end for an employee.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Next item is.
I have nothing tonight.
I just wanted to say that I have had some retirees contact me that were very concerned with them being taken care of during this process. So you feel that's being done, correct? Retirees from teachers?
The retirees, is like I said, what's been recommended from the committee, your study committee, is this is for current employees, and the pre-65 without drug coverage would be able to go to the state plans. The 477 covered employees and their dependents, that retirees that have drug coverage, or post-65 drug coverage, they would stay with that county plan which we have not even looked at. And once again, the state said they can stay on that. Once one of our employees, once they retire and they hit 65, they're not under the plans, the copay plan, the deductible plan, they go to a Medicare supplement, an A, B, and a D supplement that the county provides. We're not even discussing changing that. Okay. That's the county, and I understand the retiree's concern, but that is the county doing that discussion. That is not us.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for clarifying that. Mr. Spurlock?
Yeah, I have nothing tonight.
Thank you. Number 19, Ms. Maxwell, Tennessee Legislative Report.
Well, right before Christmas, before they broke, the legislature decided to let the counties decide, each individual, whether they wanted to make their school board races partisan after being nonpartisan for as long as I can ever remember. So both parties voted, and the Democratic Party here in town has decided to stay nonpartisan. The Republican Party has chosen to have a primary and have partisan races. And the primary will be held in May 3rd for the Republican Party, with the general election being in August.
Thank you. You have federal update?
Just that the CDC made some news when they cut down the quarantine from people who test positive for the virus only need to isolate for 5 days. And if they are asymptomatic, and if they aren't showing any symptoms, to continue to mask for 5 days to minimize the spread. So that was some big news from 5 to 10.
Thank you. Appreciate it. General discussion.
I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Lee, for the bleachers. I've been to a couple of the really great games. Oakland and Laverne have had some barn burner games. They're great. But the bleachers look great in Laverne. Thank you.
Wonderful. Anything else?
Mr. Reed, would you come up and explain to us what you have gleaned from looking at the injunction and the appeal and everything that we've been toying with over the last couple of weeks, and kind of let us know what your professional opinion is on that?
Yeah, some of this will be what you've already heard as board members, but to kind of update you with respect to the litigation that's going on. As you remember, the legislature met in special session in October of this past year. At that time, they adopted some new laws which kind of greatly reduced the school board's ability to impose mask requirements and quarantine requirements. That was adopted in law and signed by the Governor Lee on November 12th of this past year. Now, what the major changes that law made, just to hit those with you, you may have heard these already, but for a mask mandate or mask requirement to be imposed, the principal or president of the school has to submit a written request to the school board for it. That's one requirement for it. The second requirement is severe conditions must exist, and the law defines severe conditions as the governor has declared a state of emergency for COVID-19. And the second thing, the county has an average 14-day COVID-19 infection rate of new infections of at least 1,000 new known infections per 100,000 residents of the county based on the most recent data of the health department. So for there to be a severe condition, both of those requirements have to be met. The other thing the law did, it says masks can only be required on a school-by-school basis. You cannot do it on a system-wide basis. You can only do it on a school-by-school basis, and the maximum period of time that you could have the mask requirement in place would be for 14 days. And there was an option to bring it back to renew it, to extend it, but the initial restriction could only be for 14 days. A couple of other things which the law said, which is significant from a fiscal impact standpoint, it says the school has to provide face coverings for anybody who's 12 years or older, which are N95 mask requirements. So the school system has to pay for and provide N95 masks for anyone who's 12 years of age or older. And if you're between the age of 5 and 12, you have to provide a comparable mask that provides a comparable level of filtration as the N95 mask. So those are some technical aspects will be hard to fulfill from a school system standpoint. So those were kind of the major changes that came out of that legislation. The other thing which the legislation did was it basically removed the authority of the school system to quarantine anyone. So it basically says school system does not have authority to quarantine anyone. As you know, back last year we were setting up guidelines for quarantine, how those procedures should happen, and so forth. So under the new legislation, that cannot happen. So when that legislation was passed, almost immediately there was a lawsuit filed in the Middle District of Nashville in the U.S. District Court there, and that was filed really on behalf of special ed students challenging the law, saying it violated a number of federal special education laws, ADA, and things like that. The plaintiffs in that case were students from the 3 grand divisions of the federal court system in Tennessee. They were from Williamson County, Franklin Special District, Knox County, Collierville Municipal, and Germantown Municipal. Rutherford County is not a party of that case. We have no students who are parties to that case. But on December 10th, this went, Judge Crenshaw, who's the federal judge in Nashville who has this case, he issued a ruling granting, on behalf of the plaintiffs in this case, granting what they had requested was a temporary restraining order and temporary injunction, and he granted that in part, not the whole thing they were asking for, but he granted it in part, and he granted it in part to prohibit the state of Tennessee from enforcing the face covering requirements for schools in the statute I just cited to you, and also to the extent it prohibited local health officials and schools from making quarantine decisions. It prohibited the state from taking action to enforce against a school system if it took quarantine action. So that decision came down on December 10th, and that case is not final, so just so we all understand, the case is still going on. This is just an initial stage of that case, so it's not a final ruling in the case. The case is not ended. So this is just a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction, which happens at the very beginning of a case. So that case still has to work its way through for a final district court decision. But in the interim, the state of Tennessee on December 30th has filed an appeal to the Sixth Circuit, which is the appellate court for our district court in Nashville, challenging the district court's ruling as to Judge Crenshaw's ruling on December 10th. So that was appealed on December 30th. There'll be several weeks for briefs to get done on in that case. There'll be argument on that case before the court rules on it. It will probably be an expedited case the Sixth Circuit will take up. So while it usually takes months for these type of things to get an answer from the Sixth Circuit, I do think it will be quicker than that, given the urgency of the situation. So as it stands right now, we have a state law that basically prohibits masks unless those conditions are met. It prohibits us from issuing quarantine requirements, and you have a district court in Nashville who has issued a preliminary injunction and temporary restraining order as to the plaintiffs in that case from the state taking enforcement action on those laws against those individuals. So obviously this is an issue not just unique to Tennessee, it's working through its court systems throughout the country until it goes through the Court of Appeals and probably eventually the U.S. Supreme Court. We will not have a definitive answer as to how this shakes out. The U.S. Supreme Court has taken up arguments with respect to some of the OSHA regulations that have been issued by the Biden administration and some vaccine requirements and issues like that. They may also bleed into some of the mask issues that we're dealing with at the schools. So we may have some guidance from the U.S. Supreme Court on this in the next couple of months as well. So it's a very active area of litigation. The law is very unsettled on this at this point. We've got state law that conflicts with federal law. So you've got to comply with one or the other. So there's no perfect situation to comply with both laws at this point. So that's kind of where it stands right now, and we'll continue to monitor it and see how it shakes out.
Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, not for Mr. Reed, but Mr. Spurlock, what was our absenteeism rate? I didn't see.
Sorry?
Absenteeism rate for today?
We're 91%.
Okay, so it's, I think the other day that I saw it was 7%. Am I remembering correctly?
We've never been we've been in the 90s.
Or 9%. 9% absent. absent.
We were
So that would've-
91% present.
Right, okay. Because that's one of the things that we look at also, that kind of
Right.
will give us a trend as to how things are going.
And keep in mind, it still adds in there where you can request a waiver for a school, for a class, if there's a significant impact.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion? Okay, seeing none, oh, yes, you want to?
Yeah, on the 18th at 6 o'clock, we'll be having another rezoning meeting here at the central office.
6 or 6:30?
We are adjourned. Thank you.